Welcome to the Economy Magazine at I-24 News, where we give you a daily view on world markets and global innovation. I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Well, coming up today, the legalization of gay marriage in the U.S. is a boon for business. And Portugal's Azores Islands enjoy a surge in tourism. Let's start now with the headlines. Well, a lot of unpredictable twists in the Greek debt story on Wednesday. Greece sent a new proposal to Europe late Tuesday night, offering last-minute budget cuts and policy overhauls in exchange for a new bailout. Still, the offer falls short of creditors' demands. Some of Athens' last-minute requests include a later start to pension overhauls and exceptions on sales taxes for certain Greek islands. But the measures were already rejected by creditors last week when discussions collapsed. Eurozone finance chiefs were set to discuss Greece's new request Wednesday afternoon in a conference call. Still a lot of uncertainty, though. Greece's finance minister told colleagues the ruling Syriza party might even urge Greeks to vote yes in Sunday's referendum.
Our major concern as representatives of the business community is the 650,000 businesses that are still standing up. We are losing 59 businesses per day. 600 jobs are being lost as a result of this economic policy, and therefore we need to find an alternative solution.
China is tightening its grip over the internet with a new security law, in a move likely to cause worry for international tech firms. China's legislator passed the national security law on Wednesday, covering a wide range of areas such as military defense, food safety, and technology. A full text of the law hasn't been released just yet, but it calls for improved cybersecurity. Well, U.S. trade groups have expressed ongoing concern that China's security policies are stretching just too far and could push foreign businesses out of the country.
The Chinese government has repeatedly stated that we'll continue to follow the path of peaceful development, but we absolutely will not give up our legitimate rights and absolutely will not sacrifice the country's core interests.
Oil under a lot of pressure with Greece defaulting on its IMF payment, a surprise gain in U.S. crude supply, and soft manufacturing numbers coming out of China. Crude oil futures fell sharply in Asian trading on Wednesday, giving up gains from Tuesday. A report by industry group API and a jump in output by OPEC as well as the U.S. also weighed on prices. In addition, HSBC China manufacturing disappointed the market. Well, the drop for crude comes as world powers and Iran hold talks in Vienna on a nuclear deal. The deadline has now been extended to July 7th, which is likely to lead to higher Iranian oil exports. Two executives from Uber's French branch will go on trial in September after they were held for questioning. The two were detained on Monday as part of a probe which led to Uber's office raid by police in March. The company itself is listed as the defendant in the upcoming trial. The investigation focuses on Uber's local transport options known as UberPop, which allow passengers to book rides with non-professional drivers through their mobile phones. Well, this practice just outraged traditional taxi operators. Since January, France has banned the service, though the law has proved difficult to enforce. And Facebook is now giving advertisers the option to pay for video ads if users view them for at least 10 seconds. As of Tuesday, the social media giant started the new offer to bigger advertisers. Previously, the company had charged marketers when their video ads appeared in news feeds. But advertisers argued that users were just skipping over these ads and not actually watching them. Still, Facebook would count them as viewed. Well, the move is a clear effort now by the social media giant to appease marketers through a Facebook. Although a Facebook spokeswoman said that this company did not think the new option was the most cost-effective. Well, the legalization of gay marriage in the United States is giving businesses, from event venues to floral shops, reasons to celebrate, as Shelby Weiniger reports.
If the Supreme Court decides that you can be legally married, then what?
Well, we got a big wedding to plan. A really big wedding to plan.
Last week, the U.S. Supreme Court did just that, decided to legalize gay marriage in America, and the wedding bells are already beginning to ring across the nation. This landmark judicial ruling not only brings sweeping social change, but also a large economic boost. The wedding business in the United States is already a $51 billion industry, and for hundreds of thousands of same-sex couples, The Supreme Court decision means it's time to start planning the weddings they've always been waiting for.
It means I need to start buying a ring. I already got texts from my boyfriend saying, you better propose tonight and I better have a ring on my finger by about midnight. So I think it's an amazing thing.
Studies done in the states that have already legalized gay marriage show a huge influx of weddings in the initial years. California saw over 50,000 same-sex marriages in the first 3 years. That brought in $392 million to the state's economy and created over 2,000 new jobs.
I now declare you spouses for life.
A report by UCLA has already forecasted an overall $2.6 billion boost to the U.S. economy. The report estimates 13,000 new jobs to appear in the next 3 years. As more same-sex couples begin to get married, the U.S. economy will only continue to grow. Time will tell how the wedding industry will evolve.
Well, for the pulse on the Middle East now, we are joined in set by our one and only Ayman Siksek. Well, thank you for being with us.
Hi, Natalie.
You're here to talk to us about Tunisia.
Yes. So many terrible things happening in Tunisia lately. Of course, the latest terror attack. And this has hit Tunisia's best asset, tourism, quite hard. So European tour operators are already pulling some of their tourists that are in Tunisia right now at a very rapid rate. And there are fears that this will damage the Tunisian currency. The stock market dropped just a little by 1% right after the attack. And so Tunisians are a little worried that this might hurt them in the long run as far as tourism is concerned.
Right. I mean, one can imagine when these gunmen are targeting tourists on the beach, one would not expect that. But Tunisia is a country in transition, in fact, also a model, this poster child among the other Arab nations.
Of course, for democracy, it of course started the Arab Spring in 2011, and people are saying a Tunisian economy will be able to withstand this blow. GDP, according to the IMF, is supposed to rise next year to 3%. Inflation is steady at 6% for the year. It's not great, but it's not getting any worse because of these attacks, so that's a silver lining. So overall, the picture in Tunisia right now, economically speaking, is not too bad. But tourism is a bubble in Tunisia. There is a deceptive element to it, because while people were thinking after the Arab Spring in 2011 that tourism will explode in Tunisia and help so many Tunisians, it's not really the case. What we're seeing is really small enclaves where tourism is continuing to pour in, but around these places where there's so many tourists, people are still living in poverty.
Well, why would you describe this mismatch here? I mean, Tunisia, it is in the North African area there, and that is a highly turbulent area. So what's behind that mismatch?
Well, what's happening now is that the people who toppled the president in 2011 have recently, according to a recent report, said that their situation actually has not improved at all, despite the better figures that we're seeing from Tunisia. It was backed by European and American investors early on after the Arab Spring. Right now, it doesn't need as much help. But the people who helped topple the president are not seeing an improvement. Actually, the prices of staple foods are steadily on the rise in Tunisia. So there is really a huge discrepancy between what we're seeing from the outside and what's going on in Tunisia on the ground. And this is because tourism hasn't really expanded in Tunisia beyond very specific destinations.
And in fact, it's contracting with all these latest terror attacks. But what about the foreign flow of money coming in? Because you cover this regularly and you have pointed that out for us in the past.
That's right. So foreign investors are worried about what's going on in Tunisia right now. We did see a slight drop, a slight fear right after the latest terror attack. But the International Monetary Fund says that during 2015, Tunisia is not expected to suffer a huge loss of foreign investors. Its economy will remain stable next year. But unfortunately, the people in Tunisia at large, outside these hugely touristed areas, are not really seeing the benefits.
Well, thank you for bringing this analysis to us, Ayman Siksek. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Natalie.
Moving on now. The remote islands of Azores are seeing an uptick in tourism, as this next report explains.
The idyllic countryside of Portugal's Azores has until recently been one of the country's best-kept secrets. But since March this year, new low-cost routes have been serving the remote archipelago, and tourist numbers have rocketed. There has already been a 33% increase in the number of visitors compared to the same period last year.
Well, it's simple. Before it cost us €300 to fly from Lisbon to Ponta Delgada. Now it costs €300 for the whole weekend here, including the price of the hotel.
For tourists, it's the Azores' natural beauty, volcanic craters and whale watching that draws them in. But some worry that the influx of tourists could put its delicate ecological balance at risk.
This new phase of development in the tourism industry must be managed well by the government. It's often the case that the very attractions that allow a destination to experience a tourism boom end up damaged or threatened in the process.
This year alone in the Azores, 21 new hotel projects are awaiting the go-ahead. Local leaders have limited the total bed capacity to 15,000, keen to keep tourism under control. The villas at the Eco Beach Resort are a recent addition. Made from 95% recyclable materials, they are targeting the eco-tourism end of the market.
Ryanair and EasyJet are really promoting the Azores as a destination as they need passengers to make these trips profitable. So as a result, more and more people are talking about these islands, and that's exactly what we need. A buzz around the Azores and their very essence. It's a wonderful ecological destination.
With revenue from the hotel sector already up 35% compared to last year, the economic benefit of the low-cost carriers is already being felt. Encouraging growth while protecting the Azores' natural beauty will be the challenge for the years to come.
And now for the stories we didn't want you to miss, we are joined on set by Daniel Roth. Well, you're here to speak to us about Greek myth.
Yes, there's a lot of myths and legends out there, of course the ancient ones, and of course now all eyes are on Greece around the world and impending doom probably. But Vox actually pointed out a few of the myths that we hold about this impending doom, this economic failure. A lot of people like to say that Greece didn't really put in the elbow grease, if you will, in terms of really making the cuts that outside onlookers thought they should. And Vox actually pointed out there's one tweet that kind of dispels this myth, and it basically shows that though Greece was spending a little more than some of the other in-trouble European economies of the last half-decade or so, they've made much more significant cuts than any of the others on that list, than Spain, than Portugal, than Latvia.
Shocking. What kind of cuts?
Well, they were cutting pensions, they were cutting welfare programs, they were adding taxes, and taxes not just on, as you might expect in a situation like this, on wealthier groups, but on sales taxes that hit working class people.
Well, the IMF has said not enough, right?
Right, and so this is the big thing. They're saying not enough, but actually when you look at the numbers, Greece has gone well beyond anyone else out there in terms of this, and it's one of the reasons why we're seeing, Prime Minister Tsipras is asking for solidarity at the end of the day. He's saying we've made a lot of cuts, we did a lot of things that his government may not have agreed with before his government took power, but at this point he's saying, he's sort of calling on Europe, on the IMF, on the ECB, for all of these institutions to come together and stand with Greece. It doesn't look like that's what's happening, not today anyways.
And with a lot of criticism coming out of Europe, but what else do you have for us? So
the next story, we can sort of zoom out and look away from Greece for a moment. In Dubai, they're actually experimenting with 3D printing. They're going to create a 3D printed office, a 2,000 square foot office that is made from a 20-foot 3D printer. So this is entirely artificial, if you will, structure that they're creating from thin air. And now Dubai has sort of been at the forefront of these kinds of projects. They actually made a set of islands to look like a map of the world, and then decided that wasn't big enough, and so made another one that was bigger just above it. They've got an indoor ski hill, and of course this is a very hot desert climate. They've got all sorts of these kinds of projects, and this is a really interesting one because it may indicate the beginning of the end of major trade routes, of major questions about how materials for building go around the world, because people may start using technology to simply create it out, not quite out of thin air.
Technology? Why would they actually use a 3D printer for this?
Well, 3D printers really represent a new beginning, a new way of building, a new way of creating materials out of a raw plastic, and sort of what your imagination sees and designs on a computer, it can create, as opposed to dragging, for example, wood from halfway around the world to make a project happen. It means it's cheaper. It means it's easier. And it reduces the
production time too, right?
It's going to take really just a matter of weeks for this building to go up. That's their intention anyways, which is huge, you know, because of infrastructure and many other problems. Here it takes many, many years for a building like this to go up. In Dubai, they're going to do it in a couple of weeks.
Wow, that is impressive. We'll be waiting for that. Thank you very much for your insight, Daniel Roth. That does wrap up our program today. Do stay tuned tomorrow. Same time, same place. From the Jaffa Port in Tel Aviv, I'm Natalie Ehrlich. Thank you for watching.